Hello, I'm your friend Dylan, and thank goodness nothing bad ever happens on a weekend. Hi, welcome back to Your Friend Who Likes Games, and Happy New Year to you all. Welcome back to the show. I'm your friend Dylan, here to talk to you about Demonschool again. I graduated, or I finished the game, and like I said before, I'd like to do a different structure now that allowing myself to do multiple episodes per game, especially for some longer games. So here to talk about Demonschool again. Going forward, this episode, try to stay spoiler free in regards to like specific story beats, but a little more dug into the game. This one may be assumed that you've played a bit of it. If you haven't listened to the first Demonschool episode, feel free to dip into that, or check out Into the Aethers episode on Demonschool, or any other podcast that you might know that might be talking about it. Demonschool has been an excellent end of the year into now the new year game. Looking forward to chatting about that. But before we get into the specifics, I like to start the show with a For Your Wishlist section. This is a section of the show where you are going to find some game hype or what's going on in video game releases, or just some things that we could be excited about or games to think about playing. So I have 3 of them today, and one I discovered on Instagram recently is called Roswyn. I think I'm saying that right. It's spelled Roswyn, and Roswyn on Steam says that it is a story-rich indie bullet hell with pixel art visuals and intense action. Follow Lear through a mysterious world, face escalating dangers, meet memorable characters, and uncover the secrets hidden within its depths. I only saw, until about this morning, the kind of devlogs that are on Instagram. There's like a few that they're talking about, like building textures in the world, and how they're creating their own pixel art style, how they're illustrating like wind, not only on characters, but on the kind of greenery and the kind of like roses and grass that you might navigate. There's a really cool one that shows like how when you navigate through snow, it like will leave like an imprint behind you, and how they're programming that. So it's cool to follow that if you're interested. Check out, that would be Roswyn_game. So ROSWYN_game on Instagram. And they have a few videos showing like what they've been working on. And on their description said, with my friend, I'm making an indie story-rich game about a troubled girl. It has really cute pixel art and intense fights. I agree with the cute pixel art, and I like the kind of bullet hellness intended. I wasn't sure about like what the gameplay would look like. I only saw like visuals, and it looks to be awesome. Really, really early it seems. The release date on Steam states that it might be coming out in 2026, but the developer and publisher is White Moss Moon. Neither Sheep Nor Dog is also a developer, so again, a couple friends working together to make a game, and the pixel art is really what pulled me in. And now these kind of layers of like bullet hellness just look like something that I would eventually want to play. So I definitely threw that on the wish list, and excited to see further development of it and see where it goes. That's Roswyn, Roswyn. And another one that I discovered recently fits to me in the kind of Art of Rally nature of a game, but looks to have some, it almost reminds me of like Pacific Drive in regards to like the car customization. I know nothing about it other than the fact that it came out in December of last year now, 2025, December 18th. And it has a ton of positive reviews. It's got like 9,000 reviews, which is wild to me. Like I guess it just blew up, but I haven't heard anything of it other than like I saw folk on Instagram that posted about Mon Bazou, and I may be saying that right, I may not be, but that is MONBAZOU. And here's the kind of rundown of this game. It says, this is Mon Bazou, Canada's foremost car-building, maple syrup-producing, street racing survival game. We're freshly into 2005, and the age of tuners and street racers is in full swing. Take your rundown and rusty beater and turn it into a real racer. Make a living by selling firewood, maple syrup, and cannabis to the folks living in town, and wager your hard-earned cash in a street race the same night. Do you pour all your winnings back into your car to become the ultimate menace on the streets, or invest it back into your maple business for even greater returns? Who will you decide to help along the way? These questions and more are yours to ask as you write your own story in the quiet, Quebecus town of Saint Clin du Finfond. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's got kind of like that, almost like that minimalist Art of Rally art style, maybe a little bit more realism to it. But yeah, it reminds me of like, I don't know if any of you are familiar with like Motor Town, where it seems to have this like all-encompassing systems of like, you do this, you get a job, you earn money, and it has like all of these systems put into place. But it is like a fully rendered 3D game with kind of, it's almost like PS3 graphics, I would say, like where textures are just kind of slapped onto surfaces, and it gives it like a sense of realism, but not completely, which I'm okay with. But it looks like you have a ton of customization options, and I like this idea of taking a beater and like getting more, like earning more and making it fast. I think my biggest curiosity is like the level of involvement in this game. I haven't really watched any sort of playthroughs. I would imagine it is grindy. I don't know how like intricate as well, like the details in regards to like how many parts you have to obtain and like what you have to do to, like, what is the like labor of the game essentially? Like, is it a click of a button when you get a new tire and change it, or like is it like Pacific Drive, where I found it to be Pacific Drive specifically to be very tedious in regards to like pick up the tire, bring it over here, make sure it has air in it. Like, that's just too much detail for me, I think, and I am curious. But like, it has a giant reception, almost 10,000 people, overwhelmingly positive, which is really suspicious to me too. But it's Steam Deck verified. It is on sale until January 5th for $10. Yeah, curious. Not sure. I don't know. It looks interesting, to say the least. So I wanted to bring it here to your attention to see, what y'all think of it. And lastly, on the For Your Wishlist section, I'm really excited about, and some of you may already be familiar with this, of course, as with anything I talk about on the show. But I am recently discovering the ROM hack community for Pokemon games. And I've been hearing good things about Pokemon Lazarus. As always, into the aether with their recommendations and games that they play. I've been following and trusting them, or they've become a very trusted source for me in regards to what I'm finding and playing, and Lazarus has been really cool. I followed on YouTube a gentleman that goes by the name of Your Retro Gamer, so You Are Retro Gamer, has set up instructions for how to get Lazarus onto your PC or Steam Deck. It worked on both for me. I followed the same video and was able to do both pretty easily. Basically, what you're doing is downloading a Game Boy Advance emulator and then uploading the ROM hack into that, and then it's free. So because like it's a Pokemon game that is not licensed, so you cannot sell it. I don't know if there's a place, and there might be a place to donate for the labor put into this. Super cool. Like I've played a little bit of it so far. I'd like to do an episode eventually. But just kind of dipping my toe in it, it was really easy to pick up and get going. What I've been telling some of my friends is that like it has that, it lacks that like big hour-long preamble that a lot of the newer Pokemon games have, where you have to take like and skip through all the dialogue or like try to tolerate the big overarching narrative that they have with this new game, when really all we want to do is like get out and start collecting and catching. And they get to the like, here's the premise of this world real quick, here's this guy that you meet, our professor, here is your selection of first Pokemon, and then you're out and you're into it. And I really, really enjoyed that. And it's cool to play an older style of Pokemon game again. I really can't remember the last time I played that classic top-down feel. Like, I was not a Game Boy Advance person. I definitely had a Game Boy. I had a Game Boy Color. That's probably the last time, like 20-some years ago, that I played a game like that. But it felt, aside from other like emulators, maybe in college here and there, but it felt cool. It felt like really familiar, and excited to like just have that available. Again, lacking the kind of cruft, but still like has that essence. And I think what I'm really impressed with is it does feel like a Pokemon game. Like, it doesn't feel like a off-brand Pokemon game, for, you know, in a sense. Like, it plays like one. It does lack all of that extra like narrative stuff, but like I haven't really talked to NPCs that much, because I think I know what to expect. So yeah, I'm curious if I will stick with it. Aside from the fact that like it was nice, I kind of scratched a Pokemon itch for a little bit. I played a bunch of it on Christmas Day. But only a few hours in, so we'll see if we keep going. But yeah, that is available. And a lot of other ROM hacks of Pokemon games are available. In regards to all of their legitimacy, I've heard some weird things about some of the other ones. So look into it and see what they maybe are about, and see which one is for you. I've heard good things about Emerald as well. But again, I'm less familiar. So Lazarus is working for me so far. So in review, the For Your Wishlist section is Roswyn, Mon Bazou, and Pokemon Lazarus. Those will all be listed in the show notes as well, in case you forget or you're driving and you can't write it down, whatever it may be. They're there. So thanks for that. And when I come back after this quick break, I'm going to talk about Demonschool some more. Stay tuned. All right, let's talk about Demonschool some more. This is a really cool video game. I found it to be really comfortable and like really, really cozy. I didn't find it to be incredibly threatening. Like, it empowers you, the player, quite often, as not only like the writing and the narrative and the kind of attitude of the fact that you, Faye, the main character, and all of your ragtag gang of friends like are very like punk rock, anti-authority people that like know the truth or are seeking the truth of what's really going on with this upcoming demon apocalypse. It's nice that, you know, you as the player feel like a part of that. At no point in this game did I feel like frustrated with there's like no sort of like difficulty spike. There are moments where you find some like different enemy types that kind of evolve your thinking a little bit, and like you also gather more of your ragtag group, and they all have different abilities and powers. So like it continues, while it's like the same thing over and over and over again in regards to structure, you quite often will find it evolve, and it just keeps it coming in a very like palatable and comfortable way for 40 hours. And I saw it through, and I like really, really loved it. I love the style and attitude of the game. And mainly I think what really worked for me is the structure. So we'll start there. And for me, like the structure of the kind of days in this game is like you have weeks at a time. So the whole like outlook of the game is 9 weeks, and you have 9 weeks until like an impending apocalypse or a supposed demon apocalypse is happening. And you as Faye are the only person that seems to know that it's happening as you come to this island to go to school, which is where the setting of it, but school is rarely the focus of the game, which is fun. But it is the setting, and that makes it super cool. Regardless, the structure is that you have a full week, a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I joked earlier in my cheesy intro that nothing bad ever happens on the weekend, which is a common trope of the game. Like there could be like a climactic point of the the game coming to like, something that is like has like big implications, but like that's going to have to wait until Monday because nothing bad ever happens on the weekend. And then you just like skip over essentially the weekend, and then on Monday you get back to work. So the structure of the game has where you have your days, and you in each day there is like a Monday, an afternoon, and an evening, and there are various events in like each day, in the morning, in the afternoon, and the evening. Some of them in the morning, afternoon, and evening events are optional. And then there's like the mainline one that will continue the story along. So you can skip over things if you like are not interested. A lot of those have to do with like romancing your fellow characters, like or teammates. That is something that you can do to just a kind of a fun end. We'll get into that in a little bit, but again, with the structure, it's cool that like every day you can look at your map essentially, and it's just like a big list of locations, which is quick to navigate. You don't have to walk to any of these places. You just can click on the kind of set place that you want to go to, and in that list, there's indicators of if there's something to do. So whether or not there is a new videotape that your friend Newt can rent, or there is like this little side quest that has an exclamation point, and you can go investigate why somebody's face is a ghost but not their whole body. Or there's a cool side quest that has a story about like this ringer of a bell tower kind of thing, and like how it's being haunted. So what's nice is like it doesn't make you go through all of those things, like the optional ones, so you can just pick and choose which ones you are interested in, and I think that kind of solidifies your playthrough. I like games that let you choose whether or not you want to do the optional, instead of like making you swim through it or just having all this extra stuff. I think if I had to do all of it, maybe I would get burnt out. And to be completely fair, like I could tell I was near the end, and the end is drawn out, but in a very cool way. And didn't, that's just my impatience. I don't think it's a problem of the games at all. But yeah, so like with that structure, it is nice to have, like, for me, being a person that like, and I think a lot of people my age are people that need to be available in their lives. Like we're not people anymore that can like put headphones on and like play games for hours at a time. We need to be available. So within the structure of like each day, there is those events that you can do. Each event has just like lines of dialogue basically, and demon fights, and all of it is pausable, which is really great. Like you can pause in the middle of your fight, and on Steam Deck it plays great in that way, where if I'm traveling or playing for a little bit and then I need to do something, I can pause, put the Steam Deck in sleep, come back, and just be right in the middle of the battle. That was it. So like autosave is really great in this game. It understands that how people are going to play it in that way. And then like the story beats are great. They move really fast, and the writing is very engaging, where it has a ton of clickability. And I mean that in regards to like characters banter back and forth is like one sentence at a time. So one person will say something, you hit A, and then the next person will say something. And, you know, you're looking at character portraits, which are, I think I mentioned in the first episode, really well done, and like very characterized and stylized. But the kind of back and forth is, again, very clickable, so that like it encourages you to just kind of keep moving through it, and like doesn't put a whole lot of weight on what everybody is saying. I think the game is very okay with you missing some things. They're very okay with you like not completely taking in everything, because a lot of it is banter. It is kind of these kids trying to understand what's going on, and then you as the player get to be like, I wonder. And yeah, I think in regards to story structure and presentation, like spot on. And you know, it's rare nowadays where I stay with a game for 40 hours, and I did so consistently with this game, because it kind of was like just some steady comfort food. Like, you know, over and over again. Like it was just enjoyable to be in, and the tactics gameplay didn't have a whole lot of like punishment or weight to it. Just kind of you were able to just kind of play and see what happened. And if it didn't happen, what was really cool is that if you failed essentially a tactic combat scenario, you could try it again, or there's a skip button after that. It'll say like, you did your best, and you can just skip it. And like, I love that. Like in regards to time, I think that's the other thing. Like this game understands that time is a currency to gamers. And where if you're playing a game and you've done something for 15 minutes even, and then you fail it, and then it asks you to do it again, I know that's like old school way of doing things, but I like that it's like you tried it already, and if you don't want to try it again, you could just move on. And there were some boss fights that were kind of complicated, or some ones that I just kind of didn't care about and was like, whatever. And then I died, and I was like, so what? I'm just going to skip it. And then you can just continue with the story as if you defeated that one. And I am all about that. I wanted to talk about too, like, again, they're like romanceable characters. If there's characters that you are particularly interested in, like the romancing part, I think romance is a big word here. And it's kind of hard to, that word gets thrown around a lot in games, and every game has different tendencies. But basically with this one, it's like you can go on dates with characters where you take them to karaoke and role play that way, or you can cook for them. And it's just a way to like dig into more of their personality and see them having a conversation with your main character, Faye, outside of like everything that's happening. It's almost like an on the ground like pause of away from the demon apocalypse, away from like all of the happenings, but instead like let's just chat about food. Let's like flirt back and forth or whatever. So that was cool. Like if there were characters in the game that you were more interested in, that became an option as you met them, and that is like one of the optional happenings in your day. So interesting too that like there are sometimes in the main story where two different characters might have like differing opinions on like where to go and what to do, and it's not a choice based like steer the storyline necessarily, but it is more of a preference kind of thing, and you can pick what, like, let's say like I think it's Aina, I can't pronounce it, or Primrose will like they'll say something each, and then you decide who to agree with, and then when you decide who to agree with, your like romance level with them will go up, or your friendship or whatever. So then that opens up more opportunities to get to know them more if you're interested. So yeah, that's like the part of the game that I didn't expect in the first like few hours or like first impressions episode I did. So yeah. And as you play, like more and more characters with different tactics come into play. I think some of like Aina, I'm going to call her, it's Aina. I may be pronouncing that wrong, but she was cool in that like she had a big range. So you could attack like almost all the way across the board and like get to one enemy and like essentially take places with it. Or, like you had like a big reach. Or there's a character T that was really, really strong and had some like knockback. So if you hit a character, it wouldn't just like damage them, but it would push them. And there are some levels kind of midway through the game where you're on platforms actually. So if you push somebody off, or if you get pushed off, then they die. So it was cool to like know you were there and then use that character to like push them off. There's another character that had like a very scorpion chain, where very get over here. And you could pull enemies like towards you, which was cool. And then lastly, there was one that I forget his name, but he could drop tables, and that was helpful. There's these demons that like their sole move is to like move 2 tiles toward the gate that you're trying to protect, and if they get inside of it, then you fail. So putting those tables down like makes an object that gets in their way, and then they have to attack it before they can move forward. Luckily, they only take like 1 hit, so they're pretty easy to move through. But yeah, like it was cool to what really helped me. I was a bit like, if you've played the game, you know these characters. I was a big Namiko fan. She's like the first character that you meet in the game, and she has a stun feature. So like that's like her main move. So it basically just stops any enemy from doing their attack for 1 round. And I found that to be incredibly useful, because then you don't have a consequence against your characters hurting them or potentially like taking them out of the equation. Because if you get hit 3 times or take like 3 damage, then like you're done, and then you lose that character for that round of tactics gameplay. But yeah, I liked her stun feature a lot, and a lot of times it paired well with Faye or any other character that had like a bigger attack or hit. So like some of you know, if you've played the game, like if you pair those things together, then this like really cool screen pops up where both of your characters are like in action. Whether you know Namiko's like snapping a picture, or Faye's like doing a roundhouse, like it's just this very cool like anime looking or manga looking like pause. But train of thought. That's what I was going to say. I was really happy that there was another type of healer. So like early on, you get a character named Newt who can heal, and kind of, you know, if your character gets hit, then you can heal and be better. And there's one called Ocean that you get later on that she is able to heal, but then like her special has like a across the grid attack where you take out anything that is in that line, which is completely BA and all about it. So yeah, like more and more characters like help evolve the game, and it's help it not feel so repetitive. So like I think a good game does that, where it has a good system that is repetitive, but like the way you use that system over and over again can evolve and become something different. And I just think this one was paced really, really well in that way. No problem getting through the 40 hours of it in regards to that. And speaking of 40 hours, like with the amount of writing that there is, like you'd think I would get tired of it. And I did not. Like again, like I think it felt okay, or it felt like the game was okay with you just kind of passively reading some things. And the pace slows down a lot when it wants you to really take it in. And the way it does that, especially with like some really big story beats, are how, like, you know, I told you before that like it has where characters talk in like 1 sentence at a time, but with the bigger story beats, they'll talk in like paragraphs essentially. So it kind of like the music will stop too as an indicator of like, maybe zoom into this and maybe you want to pay attention, like because this is like a big climactic story piece. And you definitely, the game is very obvious when it is doing that. And the sort of like evolution of like how like the scope of the story was really cool to me. I think I was impressed with how, like, to start the story, there was like a gangster problem, and clearly like these gangsters were kind of like demonic, and then like you continue to unpack why, and then you meet new people that have family ties to these gangsters, and then you start to learn why they're possessed, and then you meet more characters, and then all of a sudden like this island where it was like the main kind of setting, it gets a lot bigger than that, and you're like, whoa, what's really going on here? So not to spoil like any major story beats, but it does like just get more and more interesting and a lot more layered in regards to like how much more you can take in, and like more story that it has to tell, and the kind of why continues to be like unfolded. So good story structure in that way. And I know I mentioned Into the Aether a lot, or I have recently. It's been a new discovery for me, and I want to give a shout out to Wavelengths as well. It's the same person, Brendan, who I think his name is Brendan Bigley, who does a YouTube channel called Wavelengths, and he made a video talking about like how Demonschool is not Persona. I haven't played a Persona game, but I know that this game has pulled a lot of Persona comparisons is the word I'm trying to say. Where I think like, yeah, maybe structurally and the kind of roots of the desire to make a game like this was probably rooted in Persona. But what I'm hearing and what I saw in that video is that it's like way less tedious. And he points out like how Persona has a lot of statistics in regards to like what you did and didn't do, and will like be like, oh, you made this choice and a lot of these people made this other choice, and then you kind of divide in that way and then feel like you're missing out on various parts of the game. This game does not do that at all, and he points out that comparison among other things. So wanted to plug that here and definitely say like check that out if you're interested. Yeah, but like I was saying before, like there is some deep writing and a lot of like family lores. I mentioned like implications of why gang activity is happening. It kind of reminded me of Promise Mascot Agency, actually, like as you continue to like unpack why and why and why. But you discover not only like demons, but witches and cult members, and you'll have to play to see why. And overall, like my feeling throughout the entire game, like I said earlier, was like just kind of really relaxing to be in. I found it to be a comfortable game to keep playing. One that was like super dependable and wasn't going to shock or challenge me in any sort of new way, but the incremental like progression felt very kind of slow and paced in a way that was comfortable and not like I had to like mentally prepare for playing it. I just was able to kind of sit in it and take it in, and you knew what it was. It was really dependable. The structure kept you moving along, and it tells it right up front. It says like 9 weeks until, and then you start playing, and then you get down to week 8 and you're like, oh, okay, so this is how this is going to go. And I'm here to say that like it doesn't like drastically change or start to do anything different or try to like make itself a different game at any point. It's just keeps giving you like good story and good gameplay and tactics situations to groove through. So I wrote that like about 20 hours in, I felt like the difficulty didn't seem to spike or become something I can't handle, and I still think that's true. Battles become a little more difficult here and there, and that's because of different enemy types. Those can be a little more tricky, but I never felt like it was too difficult. Like that's, I think the biggest thing to take away is like it was still manageable with what I had. There are a lot of like something I really didn't dig into in the game. There's like a lot of abilities that you can unlock that you could give perks to certain characters, and you could really have some fun with that in regards to preparation and then how you use it in tactics. I didn't do a whole lot of them. I didn't find a whole lot of them. I also didn't like dig into a ton of the optional stuff or buy. There's like a vendor that you can buy a lot of these upgrades for your characters or perks that, instead of I can't think of a specific one. Like there might be one that like inflicts burn or exchanges like taking damage. Instead you get a shield or something like that for like one turn. So there's like little perks like that you could implement, and I didn't find them to be necessary, but like they are fun to evolve your game. So I like that they're not necessary. I like that you don't pigeonhole yourself into like it not being possible to move forward. Thinking of like Octopath Traveler, like if you don't do enough preparation, then you're screwed when you get to certain battles. This, you could probably go without it. Maybe battles get a little more difficult, but like not too much to not handle. I think it wants again, it felt like this game wanted a variety of people to be able to play it. So yeah, there's that if you want it. But I didn't dig a whole lot into it and can't really speak to it. There's some brief moments, and I won't like spoil specifically what happens, but that the majority of the time you are playing as Faye, as the main character, but there are moments that you don't play as her, and you play as a couple other characters within the game, and there's some interesting, like you find out the reasons why you do later. So some of them are not very clear to start, and then some of them are, but I thought that was cool too. And you're doing a lot of the same things, but like the kind of like switching of the role playing to tell a story from like a character's unique perspective, I think was smart. I will say too, in regards to like the tactics gameplay, I know I haven't spoken specifically of it. Like I talked a little bit about it more specifically in the first episode, but basically you have attack points. You have 4 characters, and each of their attacks require a different amount of attack point, and the more you use one character, the more points is required for their next attack. So it really encourages you to use all 4 of your characters instead of just one, and how you can like pair up their various attacks or attacking from like different angles to take down an enemy. And they really try to like tutorialize that early, but with the repetition of the game, you really get like groovy with it, and it's fun to be able to just kind of flow through a state of these tactics scenarios. I think that's a tribute to like the fact that this game is okay with you just kind of not having to be good at it, but like can flow, and maybe just the fact that it's simply a good game. Like it felt really good to just kind of like nonchalantly go through these scenarios, knowing that the consequence of not doing it was that bad, but you did feel pretty badass overall, just kind of kicking demon butt and then moving on. Very comfortable, like I said. Another thing I'll mention is like and this is me being very picky, there were times that like I would go into a battle not necessarily knowing what a particular boss would do or what a particular like enemy would do, and really like this, it is so easy to work around this. Like you can quite literally restart the battle if you get a couple moves in and you're like, oh, this is not the right character. I don't know, like I guess what I was thinking is like, and I don't know if I actually feel this or if it would actually help the game, but like some sort of like this character might be good for this scenario, or like maybe at least knowing what the enemy's tendencies are, because they show you them like before you pick your characters and like where they are on the map or on the grid, but like some of them are brand new and you don't know what they do. So maybe when they introduce a new character, there we go. Like maybe when they introduce a new enemy type, like telling you on the screen like what exactly they do, because when you play the tactics based turn-based battle, you can hover over any enemy and it'll tell you what their move is. So like some of them will move 2 tiles seeking the enemy, and then slap them for 1 damage, or another one will shoot across the map entirely to chain them to like paralyze them, I guess, for 1 turn, and or as many turns as it takes to break the chain by another person. So it'd be nice that if when a new enemy character gets introduced, to have that sort of like, hey, this is what they do, so maybe plan for that. Yeah, I like that better than my original. Like, I think my original was like stats or like something that says this person would be good for that, because then it kind of gives you the answer, and then that takes the creativity away from you, the player, choosing your 4 against the various demons and who you're gonna go up against. Gonna say slight incentive, slight spoilery here. If you don't want to know, I'd say skip ahead a couple minutes. But I'm gonna say that at the end of the game, or toward the end, you can purchase an arcade box called Oh Dear, and it is playable. And I thought that was so cool. And I'm going to say the rest of that joy I will leave to you. Some of you know that if you've played or had experience looking at like the fact that you build this like clubhouse and you can buy things that can go in the various clubhouse. And that's something I haven't talked about yet that I'll talk about briefly here in a moment, clubhouse themes. But you could buy this like arcade machine, and then there is an entirely different arcade game that you could play in there, and it is ridiculous and amazing. So there you go. End of spoiler-ish area. So clubhouse themes, and if you're listening now after your little skip, you're safe of the little spoilery area that I talked about here. Clubhouse themes are super cool too. So you can purchase different clubhouse themes where there is like a library setting or an overgrown setting or the ultimate clubhouse space. I'm trying to remember. Oh, a library. I already said library. They're the basic, or a cafe. That's the one I was thinking of. So like the clubhouse where all of your friends like hang out in, that you eventually get and get to like purchase things for. You have like, basically you can purchase and have preset themes for each of these clubhouses where with a click of a button you can change the entire layout. So if you change it to a library, it's cool to see how each of the different characters interacts with the space. So one person might be like riding a like indoor trainer bike in one of the clubhouses, and then if you change it to the library, they may be taking out a book from the shelf and reading it. So it's just basically like the vibe that you want to have when you come back to your space. I think the Ultimate Clubhouse is one I really liked. It had like a PlayStation 1, essentially, like plugged into a TV, a bunch of couches, workout equipment, a microwave. So like it felt to me like what the game and the characters needed, like just a space to hang and, you know, make food, and all the variety was really cool in it. But there is one that was called Overgrown that I really liked too, that had like these, kind of how it sounds like, it felt like a space that they took over that had already had like all sorts of plant growth on the inside, that had some seatable areas, but like felt more apocalypse-y, like working with what we have, even though this space is clearly like overdone. The library to me felt a little bit cluttered, even though it was very cool, and the cafe felt like silly, but you know, it can add a layer of like mental narrative for you to be like, yeah, look at all my friends and all these people hanging out in this cafe that we run, and you know, one person's role playing behind the counter as the barista, as another couple are sitting at the bar drinking their coffee or whatever. So it's basic. It doesn't have any sort of like real effect on the game other than like visual and you know, looking at where your characters hang out for the moment. But very cool and artistically sound in that way. But yeah, by the last week, like I really wanted to sprint to the finish of this game. Like I could feel, I mean, after, you know, 30 some hours of it and getting to like week 0, you're like, okay, let's do this. Let's see what happens. And I think my impatience was like, I just want to get to the end, but it wasn't completely drawn out to where it was frustrating. I've played games like Chained Echoes that were like just the whole thing was drawn out, but this was not at all frustrating. Like, I felt it to be very, very cool and rewarding, and very it had a nice reprisal of like all of the characters kind of, coming together to do the thing. And I won't say what the thing is. And lastly, like a curious thought, they mention like a lot of specific things in this game. I may have mentioned earlier, like Newt in the first episode, that Newt gets to like rent VHSs from this van, and I think they're like real movie titles, and like have real descriptions of like real people and actors, and I don't know if they like obtain the rights to them to put them in the game. I really don't know how that works in regards to video games, but they mention Hot Topic in the game, which is very fitting. They mention various like musical artists of like, the late 90s, or, in their mind it would be like what they grew up with in the late to early 80s. So yeah, that was interesting to me. I don't know how that works. If any of you do, let me know in regards to like licensing and how what you're allowed to say in a video game that you're selling. I'm not really sure. And when I rolled credits, I do want to say that it was cool that the credits not only said like a person's title in regards to like if they're a producer or art direction or music or whatever, it said like it listed like what that person was responsible for. And like, I loved that. And I think that was very transparent and very appropriate, because like, I feel like if you roll credits on anything, it's just a name, and like, there's no interactability in regards to like the viewership of someone that like watched the thing and enjoyed it. You just see names, and it's so often just meant to be that area that we kind of stop paying attention to. And I liked that it said this person did like the textures on this, and then they wrote all the music for this, or they did that. And I'm like, that is really cool. And it gives like proper credit to the people that worked hard to make this thing possible. So thank you to, look at that. What is that developer's name again? They are Necrosoft. That's right. And then published by YSBRYD, Wisebird Games. But Necrosoft is the one that developed this game. So good on them. And thank you for my second favorite. I don't like saying that. It was an amazing game, and very high up on my list of games of 2025. So cheers to that, and thank you, Demonschool. I've now graduated, and I'm going to move on to other games. But that's it for Demonschool, and when I come back, I'm going to talk about one more other thing in the other stuff section of the show that usually has nothing to do or something to do or, video games. Cheers, and thank you. Okay, and one more other thing today. I took a trip to West Virginia recently to watch my sister-in-law graduate, and when we were there, we had a random stop at a Barnes & Noble, and I found this giant, big, thick book it's called Astro Boy Omnibus 1. So I know Astro Boy is not something new necessarily. It is something that I've always kind of been curious of. I have definitely consumed things that have been inspired by Astro Boy. And if you're not familiar with Astro Boy, it's basically like a manga and I think anime of like the late 1950s and early 1960s. And, I grew up watching Speed Racer out of nowhere. Like when I was really young, and I don't really remember a whole lot about it. But it's interesting to read in the preamble of this kind of collection of manga put together in this big, like, chunky book that, like, American audiences were very wary of any sort of, like, Japanese culture coming over. And I know, like, that's a much bigger conversation, but I definitely have a role in that as a 90s kid. And maybe even like earlier before me, but I don't know, like I simply put, before I start talking about things I really don't know about, this Astro Boy manga has been really delightful to kind of dig through and read something that is so like simple and good. It doesn't feel like it has a whole lot of political implication, which I might be wrong with. But it just seems kind of like lighthearted fun, where the kind of essence of Astro Boy was like he always fights for the greater good and fights for peace instead of justice, which I liked that approach. It's kind of whimsical and like has like this weird doctor that turned a bunch of dogs into cyborgs that work for him, and has this story about how this dog is kind of finding its way back to being a dog, and these folks that feel entitled to the moon. So like that definitely has some political implications, of like who wants to be there and why. But I like the kind of imaginative like reasoning why. But there's definitely some implication of greed within there. But like the palette again is like that late 50s, early 60s manga. And the person that created Astro Boy, hang on, let me find the name. There it is. It is Osamu Tezuka. Was the creator, and he is known to be like the Walt Disney of Japan. It's been, I guess, is what I'm learning, and it's kind of nice to like just find something from so long ago, from like a simpler time. I think I'm becoming more and more attracted to those things, kind of in the realm of a Gen Zer that is liking CDs and cassette tapes, because it's just something that is like not so overwhelming and in your face. It's just something that they get to choose and be a part, like, you know, connect with. And I've been enjoying it in that way. I really, for me, the size of books is so important. And this, like I said, it's a very thick book, but it's very like bring with you kind of book. Like it fits into your hand nicely. It's, I would love to say it's pocketable, but it's just nice to hold, and it feels good to like take with you places, and easy enough to dip in and out of the reading. And again, just a big collection of Astro Boy comics or manga that had came out and kind of put into some sort of chronological order. And that's Astro Boy Omnibus 1. And if I get through it, I'm curious if there's more of it. But yeah, fun to dip into and fun to appreciate something a little older and simpler. And that's going to do it, I think, for today. And thank you for tuning in. Thank you for those of you that continue to give this show a chance. I really, really appreciate it. I will never stop being thankful for that. And thank you to those of you that have connected online. It feels great to have conversations about games in any sort of context. Thank you to the other shows that I've been listening to that show me, kind of pave the way, you know, for someone like me that is amateur and independent and just wanting to share passions. And a lot of you like No Small Games and Tiny Games Chronicles have just been really potent in my kind of inspiration of identity in how I go about this. So cheers to that. And again, reach out at Your Friend Who Likes Games on Instagram, or you can find me on Blue Sky. If you'd love to chat about games and what you're playing, or anything really game related, excited about it all. So catch you next time, and have a good day. See you all later.